The easy life. My name is Alex, and I used to believe that living an easy life was the best thing in the world. I thought that if I could avoid hard work, wake up late, and just relax all day, I would be happy. For a long time, I did just that. Every day, I would wake up late in the morning. I didn't have a job, and I didn't study. I spent most of my time watching TV, playing games, or scrolling through my phone. My parents would tell me to do something useful, but I always said, "Relax. I'm living the easy life." At first, it felt great, no stress, no pressure. But after a few weeks, I started to feel bored. My friends were busy working, studying, and improving their lives. I stayed home all the time. I had no goals, no purpose. Slowly, I started feeling sad and empty inside. One day, I looked in the mirror and said to myself, "This easy life is not easy anymore. I'm not growing. I'm not learning. I'm not happy." That moment changed everything. I decided to make a change. I woke up early the next day, cleaned my room, and made a plan. I started learning English for 30 minutes every day. I found free videos online, read simple stories, and practiced speaking with friends. It was hard at first, but I kept going. Then I joined a short course and got a part-time job. Slowly, my life started to feel better. I was busy, but I felt proud. I was improving myself. People noticed the change in me. I made new friends, learned more, and started dreaming big. Now I understand the real meaning of an easy life. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing something meaningful that makes life easier in the future. Hard work today makes life better tomorrow. So, that was my story. I learned that the easy life is not about avoiding work. It's about building a life you love. And learning English helped me take the first step. As I continued learning English, something amazing happened. I started understanding songs, movies, and even books that I couldn't before. I felt like a whole new world was opening up to me. I wasn't just learning a language, I was gaining confidence. One day, I joined an English-speaking group online. At first, I was nervous, my voice was shaking, and I made many mistakes. But the people in the group were kind. They didn't laugh at me, they encouraged me. I realized it was okay to make mistakes. That's how we grow. Week by week, I improved. I began helping others who were new to the group. I even told them my story, how I used to waste time and now I was changing my life step by step. Some people said I inspired them. That made me feel proud and happy. Soon I began writing short stories in English, just simple ones about my life, my thoughts, my dreams. One of my stories got shared in our group, and many people liked it. That small moment gave me so much motivation. I felt like I had a voice. With better English, I applied for a better job, and I got it. I now work in a small office where I speak with people from different countries. Every day, I learn something new. My life isn't easy like before, but it's full of joy, purpose, and hope. Looking back, I'm thankful I decided to stop the lazy, so-called easy life. If I hadn't changed, I would still be stuck in the same place, bored and unhappy. Now I know that the real easy life comes after effort, learning, and believing in yourself. Moral of the story: an easy life without growth becomes boring. A life with purpose may be hard at first, but it brings real happiness. Never stop learning, especially a skill like English. It can change your life. A few months later, something happened that I never expected. I was invited to give a short talk in our English learning group. The topic was how English changed my life. At first, I wanted to say no. I was still nervous about speaking in front of people. But then I remembered how far I had come. I spent a few days writing my speech. I practiced every evening, reading it out loud in front of the mirror. On the day of the event, my heart was beating fast. But when I saw the friendly faces of the group, I smiled and began to speak. I told them everything, how I used to sleep all day, waste time, and call it the easy life. I shared how I started learning English little by little and how that small step turned into a big journey. I saw people nodding, smiling, even taking notes. At the end, they clapped. Some even said, "Your story gave me hope." That was the moment I truly understood something important. When you change your life, you don't just help yourself, you can also inspire others. Now I wake up every morning with a goal. I read a little, learn a little, and do my best to keep growing. I'm not perfect, and life isn't always smooth, but I'm moving forward. That to me is the real easy life. Not lazy, not boring, but a life made easier through effort, learning, and courage. And to anyone reading this, I want to say, start small. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Your story can also change, just like mine did. After the speech, something beautiful started to happen. A few people from the group messaged me personally. They said, "Your story made me start studying again," or "You gave me the courage to speak English, even with mistakes." One person even said, "You made me believe in myself again." That really touched my heart. I realized that maybe this was my purpose, not just to improve my life, but to help others do the same. So I started a small blog called The Easy Life Journey. Every week, I posted a simple story, a few tips about learning English, and some motivational thoughts. I used easy English so that anyone could understand. At first, only a few people read it, but little by little, more people came. Some even shared their own stories in the comments. We became like a small online family, encouraging each other, learning together, and growing side by side. One day, someone from a local language school saw my blog and invited me to speak to a group of beginner students. I was shocked. Me? A teacher? I had never imagined that, but I said yes. When I walked into the classroom and saw their nervous faces, I smiled because I knew exactly how they felt. I said, "Don't worry. I was once sitting just like you, scared and unsure. But if I can do it, so can you." That day, I became more than a student. I became a guide, and that felt amazing. Now, I still wake up early. I still study and work. But I also teach, write, and help others who are starting where I once was. My life isn't always easy, but it's full of meaning, and that's even better. Final lesson. The real easy life is not about doing nothing. It's about doing something that brings peace to your heart and hope to others. One small step can lead to a big change, and that change can light the way for someone else. Months passed, and my small blog turned into something bigger. People from different countries were reading my posts, leaving kind comments, and sharing their own dreams. Some were learning English to get better jobs, some wanted to travel, and some just wanted to feel more confident when speaking. One day, I got a message from a young man in Brazil. He wrote, "Your story gave me the strength to try again. I failed many times, but now I believe I can do it." That message made me cry, happy tears. I never thought my story could reach someone so far away, but it did. I finally understood the power of words, of honesty, of never giving up. Inspired by this, I decided to take another big step. I started writing a short book called The Real Easy Life. It was a collection of stories from my own journey, each one with a simple message. You can change, you can grow, and you're not alone. It wasn't perfect. My grammar had small mistakes. My ideas weren't always organized, but I didn't stop. I wrote with heart, not just rules, and people felt it. When the book was finished, I shared it online for free. The response was more than I imagined. Teachers used it in their classes. Learners read it at night before sleep. Some parents read it to their children. My small story was now helping hundreds of people. One evening, I sat alone with a cup of tea and looked out the window. I thought about where I started, sleeping late, wasting time, avoiding life. And now, here I was, living with purpose, helping others, and loving each new day. That's when I truly knew the easy life isn't about comfort, it's about courage. Courage to begin, courage to change, courage to keep going, even when it's hard. And the best part? My story still isn't over. What comes next? I'm now planning to travel and meet some of the people I've connected with online. I want to speak at schools and help young learners believe in themselves. I dream of creating an online course where people from all over the world can learn simple English through stories, stories that touch the heart. Because if one simple story, mine, can change a life, just imagine what we can do together. As my blog and book reached more people, I began to receive invitations to join online interviews and podcasts. At first, I was shy. I still didn't think of myself as a public speaker, but I remembered how I started, scared, unsure, and I reminded myself, growth only happens outside the comfort zone, so I said yes. Then came a turning point. A small publisher contacted me and offered to help publish a full book with better editing and a beautiful design. They believed my story could be used in schools for motivation and language learning. I felt so proud, not just for me, but for every person who ever felt stuck and found a way forward. A few months later, I held the printed book in my hands. It was called From Lazy Days to Meaningful Ways, My Easy Life Story. And when I opened the first page, I saw a message I had written for the reader. If you're reading this, it's your turn now. Begin today. Your story matters. Where I am now. Today, I continue learning, teaching, and sharing. I run an online community where learners from many countries help each other grow, not just in English, but in life. We celebrate each small win. We support each other on hard days. We laugh, we learn, and we dream together. I still make mistakes. I still have lazy days sometimes. But I've learned not to stay there, because now I know the truth. The real, easy life is when your heart is full, your mind is growing, and you're walking toward your dreams, step by step, day by day. And that's a life worth living. As the months passed, something incredible happened. Teachers from different parts of the world began using my story in their classrooms. One teacher from India told me, "Your story helped my students believe that they can change too, no matter how small they start." Another teacher from Egypt said, "My students see you as a real example of what's possible. Not someone famous or rich, but someone real, someone like them." These messages filled me with joy and responsibility. I realized I wasn't just telling my story anymore. I was part of something bigger, a movement of ordinary people choosing to grow, help others, and never give up. So I took the next step. I created a free online project called One Simple Story. It was a platform where anyone, from any country, could write a short story in English about their journey, their struggles, or their dreams. We accepted all kinds of stories, even with grammar mistakes, because we believed every voice mattered. Hundreds of people joined. Some stories made us cry. Others made us laugh. Some were just one paragraph long, written by people who had just started learning English. But they were brave and honest and real. Together, we created a global library of simple stories, each one a light for someone else. One day, I received an email that made me sit in silence. It was from a young girl in a refugee camp. She wrote, "We don't have books here, but we found your story printed on paper in a classroom. I read it out loud, and now I'm writing my own. Thank you for reminding me that I still have dreams." That was the moment I knew. This was more than my story. It was a spark, a beginning, a reminder that even in the darkest places, hope can grow. And now? Now I travel when I can. I visit schools, speak at small events, and continue learning every day. I still teach English, but more than that, I teach people to believe in themselves. I tell them, don't wait for the perfect moment. It may never come. Start where you are, with what you have. Even one small sentence can change your life. The easy life I once chased, the one filled with doing nothing, is far behind me. Now I live a meaningful life, a life of connection, growth, kindness, and courage. And you, yes, you reading this, you can begin your own story too. Because the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs real ones with real stories, just like yours. As the years passed, the easy life became more than just my story. It became a message I carried everywhere I went. I was invited to speak at a youth conference in another country. It was my first time traveling so far from home. I stood in front of hundreds of students from different cultures, all with the same hopes and fears I once had. I took a deep breath and began. There was a time when I woke up late, avoided work, and thought life would just happen on its own. I called that the easy life, but I was wrong. The real easy life comes when you face your fears, learn something new, and keep moving forward. After my talk, a boy approached me. He didn't speak much English, but he smiled and showed me his notebook. On the first page, he had written, "Today is my first step." That moment stayed with me. Back home, I started writing another book. This time not about me, but about the people I had met, the stories they had shared, and the lessons we all learned together. It was called The Easy Life, Stories from Around the World. In that book were stories from farmers, students, mothers, refugees, and teachers, all telling how they changed their lives by starting small, learning something new, and believing in themselves. It was a collection of courage. Soon after, I launched a scholarship program. It wasn't big. I didn't have much money. But I used part of the money from my book sales to help students buy books, internet data, or attend classes. I called it the First Step Fund, because for many people, the first step is the hardest, and I wanted to make it easier. Now, when people ask me, "What do you do for a living?" I say this: I help people tell their stories, because stories can build bridges, open doors, and heal hearts. And it all started with me, sitting on the edge of my bed one day, tired of wasting time, deciding to learn English. That one small choice changed everything. To you, the reader, your story is waiting to be written. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. That one small choice changed everything. To you, the reader, your story is waiting to be written. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. The easy life, it's not behind you. It's not on a screen. It's not in a dream you gave up on. It's in your next small step. So take it. The world is waiting. Years later, I stood at the entrance of a community learning center, one that I helped build with the support of hundreds of people who had followed my journey. It was a small, colorful building with simple classrooms, a reading corner, and a big sign over the door. Start small, dream big. It was the place where children, teens, and adults could come to learn English, read books, tell stories, and grow. It wasn't fancy, but it was full of life, full of hope, and full of beginnings. I walked inside and saw a group of young students reading my first book. One girl looked up and said, "Teacher, is this really your story?" I smiled and sat beside her. "Yes," I said. "It started in a small room with a tired person and a big decision, to stop wasting time and start changing." She nodded slowly, as if letting the words sink in. Then she whispered, "One day, I want to write my story too." At that moment, I realized my story had come full circle. What began as a personal battle against laziness, fear, and doubt had turned into a path that others could walk too. Not just to learn English or write stories, but to believe they were capable of something more. And that little center? It wasn't the end of the journey. It was a new beginning, for many. So where am I now? I still write. I still teach. I still learn something new every day. But most of all, I listen to the voices of others, to the courage in their stories, and to the quiet dreams people carry in their hearts. I've learned that success is not about having more. It's about giving more. Giving your time, your story, your kindness. And as I look back on the life I once thought was easy, I smile, because I finally understand. The easy life doesn't come from avoiding struggle. It comes from finding meaning in the journey, from helping others rise while you keep climbing, from turning your story into someone else's hope. And to you, reading this, maybe you're just starting. Maybe you've fallen a few times. Maybe you feel lost, unsure, or not good enough. But hear this, you are not behind. You are just beginning. Take one small step, write one simple sentence, speak one brave word. Because your story, just like mine, has the power to change the world. And when you begin, you'll discover that the easy life was never about doing less. It was always about becoming more. Years passed, and I visited many countries, not as a tourist, but as a storyteller, a teacher, and a listener. In every place, I met people who carried their own version of the easy life, some still stuck in it, others fighting to break free. In a quiet village in Kenya, I met a young boy named Emmanuel. He didn't have a smartphone, barely any books, but he had a dream to become a teacher. He told me, "If I can speak English, I can teach others. If I can teach, I can change my village." I gave him my book, and he gave me a hand-drawn thank you card. That card hangs on my wall to this day. In the Philippines, I met a single mother who had started an English learning group for women in her town. She said, "We started with just 2 words, hello and thank you. Now we speak with confidence. We even help our children with their homework." I shared her story online. It inspired thousands. In each country, in each heart, I saw a reflection of the same truth. Change starts small. Dreams grow quietly, and even one person can be a light for many. Eventually, people began calling me a global educator, a motivational author, a life changer. But in my heart, I was still that same person who once wasted his days and wanted more from life. I never forgot where I came from, and I made sure others didn't forget where they could go. At the 10th anniversary of the Easy Life Project, I stood on a small stage, looking out at a crowd of readers, students, teachers, and friends from all over the world, some in person, many joining online. I took a deep breath and said, "This isn't just my story anymore, it's yours." Every time you pick up a book, every time you try to speak, every time you decide to grow, even when it's hard, you're living the real, easy life. There were tears, smiles, and something deeper, connection. Today, the journey continues. The learning center I once dreamed of has grown into a network. The little blog I started now has millions of readers. The boy who wrote, "Today is my first step," is now a teacher himself. And I keep going, quietly, purposefully, gratefully, because the easy life was never about me. It was about what we can become when we choose to begin. And to you, still reading, thank you. You are part of this story now. What will your next sentence be? As the years went by, the ripple effect of the Easy Life story spread even further. It wasn't just through my words anymore. It was in the hands of those who believed in small steps, in gradual changes. The lessons I had learned, the ones that transformed my life, were now transforming others' lives, creating a network of shared hope and growth. One day, I received an invitation to speak at an international conference about education and personal growth. It was being held in a large city with people from many cultures, languages, and walks of life. I stood before an audience that included teachers, entrepreneurs, students, and even families who had traveled from far and wide to hear about the story of the easy life. As I stepped up to the stage, I could see the nervous faces in the crowd, just like I had once had. I knew I was no different from them. They had dreams, just like I did. They had questions, just like I did. And they had the same potential to change the world, step by step, just like I did. As I began speaking, I shared my story. But this time, I focused not just on my journey, but on the incredible transformations I had witnessed along the way, from the single mother in the Philippines, to the young boy in Kenya, to the students in the refugee camps who had begun their own paths to learning. These weren't just stories of growth, they were stories of courage, resilience, and community. This journey, I said, has shown me that when you decide to take the first step, you create a space for others to do the same. Every small step forward has the potential to light up a path for someone else. And when many people are walking that path, Together, we can change the world. The applause that followed was overwhelming, but it wasn't just for me. It was for every single person who had made a choice to stop waiting and start acting. The ripple effect. As time passed, I began to receive messages and emails from people who had started their own projects. Some created local learning groups in their communities. Others started podcasts or YouTube channels to teach English or share stories of change. Many students went on to become teachers themselves. Some took their learning into their careers, spreading the message of personal growth and empowerment. I was thrilled to see so many people taking that first step and making a difference. I realized that my story was not meant to stay with just me. It was meant to be shared, multiplied, and expanded into a movement. A movement of people who believed that every individual, no matter their background or circumstance, could rewrite their story. A dream come true. One day, while walking through a park near my home, I received a phone call that left me speechless. It was from a prestigious university. They had decided to create a scholarship fund in my name to help students from low-income backgrounds who wanted to learn English and pursue higher education. The university representative told me, "We believe your story is one of true resilience. We want to honor that by providing opportunities for others to begin their own journeys, just as you did." In that moment, everything I had worked for, every step I had taken, every small change I had made, it all came full circle. It was more than I had ever dreamed. Legacy and the future now. As I look ahead, I know this journey is far from over. Every day is a new opportunity to learn, to grow, and to inspire. The Easy Life Project has expanded into new programs and initiatives, including workshops on self-improvement, story writing, and digital literacy. I still have the same humble beginnings in mind, a person who wanted more from life but didn't know where to start. I will always remember that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. One small step, one small decision, one small act can change the course of a life. And to you, the reader, your story is still unfolding. What steps will you take today? What dreams will you chase? What difference will you make? The end or the beginning? As the years continued, I kept hearing new stories from the people who had been touched by the Easy Life message. Each story was unique, yet they all shared the same theme, a small, courageous step that led to a big change. One day, I received a letter from a young woman in a small village in Mexico. She had started an after-school program for children who couldn't afford to go to regular school. She had no formal teaching background, but wanted to offer the children something she hadn't had growing up: hope. She wrote, "Your story inspired me to create a space where children can learn and believe in themselves, just like you once believed in yourself. I started with only 3 kids, and now we have 20. I'm teaching them English, math, and how to dream." I stood there in awe. All these stories, all these lives, we had all created this together, a legacy that lives on. As the years rolled by, my role shifted. I was no longer just the person telling the story. I was a connector, a supporter, someone helping others find their own paths. The Easy Life Project had become a global network of learners, teachers, and changemakers who were all working toward the same goal: to help each other succeed, no matter the size of the step. And now, as I look back, I realize that the Easy Life was never really easy. It was a life built on purpose, passion, and persistence. It was about the courage to take that first step, and the wisdom to keep moving forward, even when it was difficult. But in the end, I learned that the real easy life is not about avoiding challenges or seeking comfort. It's about choosing to be the best version of yourself every single day and helping others do the same. And to you, reading this now, what small step will you take today? What dream will you pursue? How will your story inspire the world? Remember, your journey has already begun. All it takes is one decision, one moment of courage, one small step. And before you know it, you'll be part of a story that's much bigger than your own. The end, or the beginning of your story. The continuing journey. As the years continued to unfold, my life became even more intertwined with the incredible people I had met along the way. The Easy Life Project wasn't just a personal journey anymore. It was a global collaboration of voices, all sharing their dreams, struggles, and stories. The community we had built became a living, breathing network, one that extended beyond borders, languages, and cultures. It wasn't just about teaching English anymore. It was about helping people realize that no matter who they were or where they came from, they had something powerful to offer. We were no longer just students and teachers. We were a family. Through online platforms, I began to see more and more people using their own stories as stepping stones for others. There were YouTube channels, podcasts, and blogs dedicated to learning and teaching, all inspired by the simple concept of taking one small step forward. One young woman from Vietnam wrote to me, saying, "I started a podcast where I interview people who have taken their first steps, and it's helped me become more confident in my own journey. The stories you shared gave me the courage to do this." And a man from Colombia emailed, "I used to think I was too old to learn a new language, but I read your story and now I'm taking classes and teaching others how to start their own journeys too." These messages weren't just heartwarming, they were a reminder of the far-reaching power of a simple decision to change. And with each new story, the movement grew stronger, reaching places I never imagined. The digital age and the power of sharing. With the advent of social media and digital platforms, the Easy Life Project found a new home. I launched an online community called the Easy Life Network, where people could come together, share their progress, ask for advice, and encourage each other. The platform became a treasure trove of shared knowledge, ideas, and personal stories. People from every corner of the world started contributing, from the quietest villages to the busiest cities. And in this digital space, language didn't matter. The shared experience of taking small steps and making a difference was universal. I held live webinars, online workshops, and digital meetups where I would listen to stories and offer guidance. But most importantly, I created a space where people could connect with each other. It was no longer about one person's story. It was about all of us creating a shared legacy. The future is in our hands. But even as the network grew, I knew that this wasn't the end of the journey. The future of the Easy Life movement would always belong to the people who joined along the way. And so, I passed on the responsibility of leadership. I formed a team, a diverse group of passionate individuals who had also once been inspired by the message of taking small steps. Together, we worked to expand the project further, creating mentorship programs, setting up free educational resources, and building partnerships with local communities. It was clear, this wasn't just about one person anymore. It was about a movement of empowered individuals, each contributing their talents, time, and energy to help others succeed. A legacy of empowerment. The stories, the books, the community, they were all part of a larger legacy that was just beginning. People continued to share their experiences, and new generations of dreamers came together to create a world where small changes led to global transformation. The Easy Life Project had become something much bigger than I ever envisioned. It wasn't about a single person's journey anymore. It was about all of us. And that's when I realized the real impact wasn't just in the stories we told, but in the stories yet to be written. Every new story added to the collective power of change, and it was only going to grow. And to you, the reader, as you read this, you are a part of the Easy Life story now. Maybe you're at the beginning of your journey, just starting to make small changes, or maybe you're well on your way, inspiring others with your own story. But the one thing I want you to know is this: you are never alone. Whether you're struggling to take that first step or looking for new ways to help others, the community you're part of is here. A community that believes in the power of small steps, in the power of stories, and in the power of transformation. So, what will your next step be? What story will you share? The journey continues, not just for me, but for all of us. And the next chapter is yours to write. The end, or a new beginning. The beauty of this story is that it doesn't end here. It's yours now. It's the story of anyone who dares to dream, to take action, to inspire change. What small step will you take today? The power of connection. In the years that followed, the impact of the easy life continued to grow, taking on a life of its own. But while the movement spread across the globe, one thing remained constant: the power of connection. People were no longer just reading stories, they were living them, sharing them, and growing together. The online community I had started, the Easy Life Network, became a hub where anyone, anywhere, could find a mentor, share their progress, ask questions, and be part of a larger collective. We started hosting annual meetups, both virtual and in person, where people could meet each other, share their struggles and triumphs, and learn from the wisdom of others. These gatherings were unlike any other I had ever attended, full of raw, unfiltered stories and heartfelt connections. At one of these meetups, I met a young man named Alex. He had grown up in a foster home and had struggled with his self-worth for many years. He shared with me that he'd always felt like an outsider, like his past defined him. But after joining the Easy Life Network, he began working on his goals. He started learning English, then digital skills, and eventually launched his own small business. He said to me, "I always thought I had to be perfect to succeed, but your story showed me that the small steps are what really matter." That moment with Alex was a turning point for me. It was the realization that this movement wasn't just about teaching skills, it was about teaching people to believe in their ability to change their lives. The small steps weren't just a means to an end, they were the foundation of self-worth and empowerment. The ripple effect continues. As more and more stories were shared, the movement evolved into a powerful force of empowerment. The impact of small steps was becoming more visible, more tangible, and more transformative than I could have imagined. The world was changing, not in big leaps, but in quiet, determined actions, taken by individuals who believed in themselves and in the possibility of progress. I began to hear from people who were using the principles of the easy life to make meaningful changes in their communities. There were teachers in South America who had used the project's resources to teach children in underfunded schools. A group of women in South Africa started a literacy program for girls who had never had access to education. A man from India used his newfound language skills to secure a job and then started a local volunteer organization to help others in his town. These were just a few examples of how the ripple effect of small steps was spreading, igniting change in ways I had never thought possible. It became clear that the work wasn't just about giving individuals the tools to succeed. It was about creating a culture of support and collaboration where everyone had the chance to step forward, a future built on stories. As the years passed, I looked back at how far we had come and marveled at the countless stories that had been shared. And in every story, I saw one common thread: hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a brighter future. Hope that no matter how hard the journey, there was always the possibility of change. Every person who joined the movement, no matter where they were from or what challenges they faced, carried this hope with them, and they passed it on to others. I was proud of what we had created, but I knew that the most important work was still ahead of us. The next generation of dreamers was already coming, and it was time to think about the legacy we wanted to leave for them. What could we do to ensure that the values of the easy life, growth, connection, and empowerment would continue long after I was gone? I realized that the real legacy of this movement would not be in the books or the programs, but in the stories that would continue to be written. Each person who took a step forward was creating a legacy of their own, a legacy that would inspire countless others to take their own steps. And so, I made the decision to pass the torch. The future of the movement would be in the hands of the next generation, the next group of people who would carry the message forward and make it their own. The next step for you. And now, dear reader, the torch is passed to you. The journey has always been about more than just me. It's about you and everyone else who is reading this and thinking, what's my next step? You are part of this legacy now, and your story matters. What will you do with the lessons of the easy life? What small steps will you take today? How will you inspire others to take their own steps toward change? The world is waiting for you, for your story, for your vision, for your courage. So take that step, write that story, share your journey. Together, we can create a future where everyone believes in their ability to change their lives and to change the world. A new generation of changemakers. The transition from the original vision of the easy life to its next phase was both humbling and exciting. The stories of transformation continued, but now they were being written by new voices, new faces, and new hearts. This generation was not just interested in taking small steps for themselves, they wanted to help others take those steps too. They understood that the power of the movement was in the shared experience, the collective strength, and the unyielding belief that no one was ever truly alone on their journey. In the coming years, the movement evolved into something far greater than just a platform for learning. It became a way of life. The core values, courage, perseverance, and empowerment, became the guiding principles for a new wave of educators, leaders, and dreamers. They were not only building their own futures, but working tirelessly to create a better, more connected world. The global network grows. One of the most exciting developments was the expansion of the Easy Life Network into more regions and countries. We partnered with schools, universities, nonprofits, and corporations who shared our mission. Local chapters sprang up in communities from the heart of Africa to the islands of the Pacific. The beauty of the digital age was that it allowed us to connect people from all corners of the globe, united by a single idea: that the easy life is not defined by ease, but by the ability to rise above challenges and move forward, step by step. A woman from Argentina named Sophia reached out to me, sharing her story. She had founded a nonprofit that provided free online courses in English, entrepreneurship, and technology to low-income women. Her initiative, which she called Mujer Valiente, Brave Woman, quickly gained traction, and women from all over South America joined. Sophia said, "I started with one person, but as I learned from your story, I realized that by teaching others, I was also teaching myself. We're all on the same journey, and together, we can achieve so much more." Her story was one of countless others. The movement had sparked a ripple effect, a wave of collaboration, not competition. People who once felt alone in their struggles now found solidarity in each other's success, and with every person who stepped forward, the movement grew stronger. A digital revolution of learning. By now, the Easy Life movement had grown into a full-fledged digital revolution. The lessons we had learned, that the small steps lead to bigger dreams, were now available in multiple languages, on accessible platforms, and in various formats. Podcasts, online courses, webinars, and even mobile apps were created to ensure that the message could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. The online courses we developed became a global resource. Thousands of learners from remote villages in India to urban centers in Europe used them to improve their skills, broaden their horizons, and gain the confidence to take on new challenges. But it wasn't just about acquiring knowledge. It was about building a community where people could learn not just from each other, but with each other. One of the most popular programs we launched was called the 30-Day Challenge. It encouraged participants to take one small action every day toward their goals. Whether it was learning a new word in English, practicing a skill, or simply stepping outside their comfort zone, the challenge empowered people to make progress, no matter how small. A legacy in the making now. As I sit in the quiet reflection of how far the movement has come, I realize that what began as a simple idea to improve my own life has turned into a living, breathing legacy of change. But this legacy isn't mine alone. It belongs to everyone who has ever taken that first step. It belongs to every person who has shared their story, who has helped someone else rise, who has believed in their potential, even when the world told them it wasn't possible. The most beautiful part? The journey doesn't end here. It continues in each person who decides to begin, in every new dream that takes root, and in every small step that leads to transformation. The future of the movement. Your role. As I reflect on the future of the easy life, I am more excited than ever. It's no longer about a singular vision, but about a collective vision, one that invites you, the reader, to step into the movement. Your story is an essential part of this ongoing journey, and I believe it has the potential to inspire countless others. What will your role be in the story of the easy life? Will you be the one who starts a new project? Will you share your lessons and experiences with others, showing them that their dreams are possible? Will you mentor someone, guiding them through their first steps? The future is wide open, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds, with all of us contributing in our own ways. No matter where you are in the world or what your background may be, you are part of something much larger than yourself. The story you are living is just as important as any of the ones that have come before. The final chapter, your beginning. As the sun sets on this chapter of the story, I leave you with one final thought. Every great journey begins with a single step. The first step is the hardest, but it's the most important one. From there, you will find your own path, your own rhythm, and your own purpose. The easy life isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about embracing them, knowing that each step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to the life you want to create. And so, as the next chapter of this story begins, I leave it in your hands. What will your first step be? What story will you write? How will you change the world, one small action at a time? The next step is yours. Take it. The end, or the start of your new journey. Is there a particular area you want to explore next? Perhaps creating your own community, launching a personal project, or looking for ways to share your own story? I'm here to help guide you. The future is waiting, and it's yours to shape.